really close to my heart, and I'm really excited for the time to come and developing this and collaborating and getting your ideas. So, The Village Project. We are an aspiring eco-community prospectively located within 30 minutes of Victoria, BC. Vision statement. A vibrant village where our connection with nature inspires creative expression and nourishing relationships with ourselves, each other, and our planet. Mission statement. Creating an inspiring eco-village by living and sharing an ecologically conscientious lifestyle while fostering a space where multidisciplinary art forms are encouraged as an essential part of cultural development and personal well-being. So those are obviously just words, but we want to kind of know what this means to everybody else. And maybe we should go over this chart first.
Okay, as long as you know what's on there. So we have the community element. Okay, so that is comprised mainly of the residents, where we're interested in sustainable living, sustainable buildings, applying some of the ecological perspectives to daily life, and also in collaboratively living, so that there's an honoring of private space, but also mutually beneficial sharing of resources, land, in order to afford to be able to build your own private home, rather than the very restrictive economic limitations of buying real estate, building a home, a conventional home, which has the constant need for upkeep and repair. So, and also is usually filled with toxic things. So, that's the community element. The culture house. We want to change the way that artists conduct their lifestyle. It's very much every man for themselves, out just trying to pull in more work, and then that takes away from the quality of life generally. So what we want to do is set up the culture house, which facilitates having affordable space for rehearsal and for getting together and sharing ideas, and having multidisciplinary artists in there to jam together and influence one another. So it's a meeting, sharing space for the artistic community. Being able to afford to be an artist by having some of the major drains on your pocket taken care of, in a community of people who understand exactly what's going on and who will be influenced by you and by whom you'll be influenced. So a hub, an area for like sharing, thinking. Also, we have the Living Earth Institute. Now, these days, there's a growing need to shift how we live, how we build, how we interact. And basically what we want is empowerment for not just the people of the community, but everyone who gets involved, who hears about it, through action, through education. Be able to get your hands in, learn how to build your own home, how to grow your own food, through experience. Because it's very difficult to get into a sort of social network where that sort of information is available. Generally, you have to already be a part of that culture in order to have access to it. So we're trying to bring that into the mainstream, into at least the artistic community, who already has such a sense of cooperation and passion and intelligence. So, the Living Earth Institute, we want to get education through action, bring in speakers, bring in educators, and apply the things that we are being taught in lecture in the village. So we have a living example. So, being a part of the community does not mean you have to be a part of the Living Earth Institute. Being a part of the Culture House does not mean you need to be a part of the community. They all work together and enhance one another. So that's our goal, 3 separate entities in one.
They're all on the land. So there's the community, which is made up of the residents who may or may not be working at either one of those individual organizations, or may not be working at either of them. They may have jobs outside, just in Victoria or in Saanich or whatever. So it doesn't mean that because you're involved in the Village Project, that's like an umbrella term for these kind of 3 elements that are working in harmony together, but not all integrated. So like people who live in Victoria might work at Culture House. There might be some marketing intern person that is actually like at UVic and living in the city, but is coming to the Village Project to work on Culture House. So that's the Arts Center, and Living Earth Institute is the educational program. Questions? Let's kind of get your ideas and hear what you guys have to say. And we have questions here written out, but we don't have to follow that.
Well, all three pillars of this community seem very strong and vital. They're all things that I would be excited to be involved in.
Yeah, I like how they're not exclusive. You know, like the community doesn't necessarily have to comprise the workers at either of the institutes as well. The workers at institutes, you know, like, it doesn't limit. It doesn't sort of have any like preconditioned judgment in any form or another. People can come and go as they please and participate as they please, and by that it feels a lot more versatile, adaptable, and free to be able to sort of participate in. It's an intimidating thing to sort of enter a community or a commune or something like that. So it's very it's very open and not exclusive. It feels very judgment free, really, is what it comes down to, which is important.
Great.
I agree with that. I think it was very, very welcoming. And if we want to build a community like this, we need something that is very welcoming and that people are going to be like, oh, what is this? This is interesting. I want to know about this, and not feel judged. And having that diversity of different people and interests going into this is great. And actually, all three elements of this is something that I actually completely would want to be involved with, and especially the Culture House, because coming from being an artist myself, that is something that I would definitely want to be involved in, because I know that's something in my life that I've been trying to work towards and trying to find, and being with like the type of people I'm with in my life, I'm slowly leaning towards that, and it's great because that is something that's going to be great for everybody, but also people who work within the artist community and stuff, and be able to have an area where you can teach and grow and learn from people and show your things, and not having to have that monetary value, just having that value of everybody's skills coming together and just openly learning and exploring, which is awesome. Yes.
No, the ability to build a community, that's very, very exciting to be like, hey, there's no real blueprint for it. I mean, yes, you look at the Mud Girls and all kinds of people and draw positive and things that work for you, and you know the things that you don't bring in, and be able to pick and choose and to build something from the ground up that either has been done before or hasn't been quite done in this way or will suit community best. And coming from a father's perspective, yeah, houses are toxic. The environments we live in are toxic. To have a community of people who are similar mindset, sure they have all different skill sets, but to have that and to have a child involved, to be able to just go to aunts and uncles and like literally a family, a huge family in this community that's, I'm not going to say safe, but that's more forward thinking, it's intentional together, and and sharing love, compassion. That's what it feels to me.
Well, I think a chronic problem is a sense of isolation in every community. I can't say that for sure, but I believe that's true. And living in an area where you have accountability to your neighbors and to people that you live with, because you're a part of the community, you have privacy, so that's respected, you have your own life. This doesn't have to be your life, but you can be a part of it. And the access and the easy flow from the community at large, so that there's people coming in from outside, and so there's a constant presence of new life and thought and expression, and a nice flow through it. I think that's essential. And so its location has to be within easy access of that, so people can have their lives and have lives outside of this. Oftentimes these kind of communities, I find, are very secular. They end up as a fringe society. Well, I think that this kind of concept, this way of living, needs to become the mainstream. So it needs to be accessible constantly.
In order to help the shift in consciousness, as opposed to being like these these freaks on the sideline. You're like, you're integrated into
Well,
society.
not everyone can live in the bush, right? And would you want to? No, I don't want to, but I want a community, and I want to live responsibly, and I want to be self-educated, and I want to share my knowledge. And I don't have to go to a university to do it. I want to talk with my friends. I want to put my hands in the dirt or on the wires or whatever, and start learning, not just what I know, and branch out from there. So good access, I think, is critical
That's huge.
to knowledge and to just other human beings. So it takes a family, a community to raise a village. That's an old adage. It's true. I mean, to raise a child, it takes a village. Well, we're all kids too. We need to learn. You know, we need to have people around to be accountable to, so you get called on your shit, and you keep a social conscience and an ecological conscience and an economic conscience.
I'm curious, what made you choose the proximity that you did?
Yeah.
Curious about. Okay, great. Just so everybody know, I'm just going to show a map of like where Strawberry Vale is, because this is kind of the area. We're very specific. We want to live within 100 meters of. No. Here's Victoria, downtown there. There. Can you guys see? And then the one that's more north. There. That's Strawberry Vale, which is kind of the area. I mean, it might not be there, but that's kind of where we're thinking. And that's 9 kilometers from downtown Victoria, which is great. And I think one of the major reasons we chose that area,
An adorable name.
because of the name.
Strawberry.
First of all, yeah. Well, Trevor and I mean, personally, would like to be in an area that is more quiet and more connected with nature. And that area there there's a lot of farmland around there. Yet it is close to a city, Victoria. I mean, it's a small city, but it's still a very budding city with lots of new ideas and lots of arts. Because we're artists and we're also drawn to ecological living, there's kind of it's kind of almost like a oxymoron, you know, because I've always felt like I need to live in Toronto or I need to live in Vancouver or some big city in order to be a successful artist. But I guess the journey for me personally has been, well, no, I don't. I can still create something. I could still facilitate the creation of the kind of world I want to live in, which is the essence of the Village Project, and still live in a beautiful natural setting and work in co-creation with nature and be creative and artistic, you know, in those facets and work with other people, because I don't want to be isolated either. That's terrifying for me. So it has to be within a very accessible range. Like, you know, people have to be able to like take the bus there or carpool there or bicycle. I mean, this area is there's a lot of trails running through that area too, so people without cars can access it,
Totally.
which is great.
But why Victoria? Why, if you're gonna have a commune that's in nature and it's gonna be close to a density of people that would, you know, benefit from the resources and contribute, you know, why couldn't it be close to Nanaimo, Courtenay, Port Alberni? Why do you want it to be specifically 30 minutes from Victoria?
Well, you're right. It could be lots of those other places. You're totally right, and that is something that when we focus on location, we might have to, for one reason or another, think about those other areas.
Climate
in my
definitely
mind.
is in favor
Yeah.
in Victoria. There's so
Totally.
much milder.
Yeah.
I mean, I find that it might be a little bit easier and accessible to have a outdoor community type living situation.
That's true.
Well-
Yeah, that's totally true.
Something that's very strong in my mind about that and you know, other reasons is, well, one, Victoria is so well known. It has a major tourism presence. Nanaimo does not. So getting the word out and having like something, and Victoria is quaint and beautiful. People go there for that kind of experience. This sort of village in concept is quaint and interesting. So it kind of goes along with that sort of attraction. People are already going to that area to see something like that, right? This potentially can be the acumen of that kind of of functional urban pastoral living. So this is a good setting for that. That's one. Two, Saanich is one of the best, it claims to be the greenest municipality. This is an opportunity for them to prove it. Already on the island, the zoning laws have been modified enough, thanks so much to One United Resource Eco-Village. They've completely set new legal precedents on Vancouver Island for denser urban living, so multi-dwelling
Cluster
zoning.
housing it's called.
Yeah, cluster housing, yeah. And also for eco-housing, so more ecologically built houses, cob housing, is legal there. Saanich is close to Victoria. Victoria itself, the municipality, has fairly prudish laws in terms of what they allow to be built there, but Saanich does not. And it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from the border of Victoria.
Information and contribute that into the pool of resources that you have, and in sort of like a continual process of learning, of knowing these types of things. So I think that where you guys speak of the acting community, the music community, and all those types of things that are already present in Victoria, it's quite fertile for this type of thing to continue, because you're sort of learning from those experiences already as it is. And I think is probably a good, strong sort of approach.
You talked to me a lot about Yarrow, I guess, where people put in a few hours every week of volunteering towards the community, and I think that's such a great idea. You know, if somebody is a great yoga teacher, whatever, like have you guys thought about how people living here would not necessarily work, but to exchange their skills with other people within the community, and so, and if so, how, and would it be through these two houses? Or?
In a way.
Yeah, I think that definitely there would be. I kind of imagine that we would do, community dinners, and people would take turns cooking, and then it would end up being something like, I think at some communities that we've been to, people cook like a meal every maybe 5, 6, 7 days, but they have always home cooked meal, and like everything is, so there's a lot of like
As an option.
when there's so many people contributing to sharing resources and doing chores with each other, it becomes so much less work for each individual. So that's a huge benefit, right? And in terms of access to Culture House, for instance, I imagine that Culture House would probably, because I don't think at this point in my mind Living Earth Institute is a actual building. I think it's more of like a program. But Culture House is a building.
I see a big part of the Living Earth Institute, or some small part of it at least, as being like almost like a reception center for the access into this sort of like other world. I'm trying to think of what the name for this, interpretive center. So you sort of have the opportunity to sort of like, bring people there for the purpose of seeing somebody lecture, speak, Skillshare, whatever, but you also have it as a interpretive center for what the community base is, like demonstrating to everybody what you guys are achieving, what you're accomplishing, and through a sort of an alternative approach.
Ecotourism, basically.
Exactly.
Cool.
It's definitely
tourism.
I mean, it can be regulated on a scale that's is fitting to the community, because realistically, they're the ones being put on display, right? But if they're willing to participate and they're willing to sort of contribute to that, then part of that mentality is making sure that it does sort of get hit a bigger consciousness, right? Absolutely.
Confines of this little community and opens it to
And open
something so
arms,
much
I
bigger.
Yeah. It's not just its own little identity, it's within everything else too. Yeah.
Cool.
And again, access within a major
Yes,
center and with
access.
people with whom you can identify is a major asset.
This community, and as everybody is talking, and I've heard of other intentional communities where they are kind of like separate, and they kind of have their own kind of like, identity and niche, and they're kind of like almost, some people have mentioned they're kind of almost like snobbish in a way, but not really snobbish, because they're like, well, this is our community, blah, 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 blah. And I can see this community being like, no, this is where I live, but you should come check it out, and just being open arms to like everybody, and just letting people be curious about it. And that's where like the Living Institute Earth Institute comes into, and I was going to mention, because you mentioned that not necessarily having it as a building, but it would be nice to actually have it as a structure, but as sort of like have part of it as an open structure, so part of it is maybe like architecturally open to the earth and to things, but have part of it that is kind of closed off and have different sections for different ideas, and having it very visual. Like, I'm a very visual person, and I know a lot of artistic people are very visual, and a lot of people can learn better when they see things visually. And I think it would be really cool to have that built in a very unique way, where they can easily learn without being hands-on or seeing it in some kind of way.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Open classroom concept.
Open classroom concept,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of
And there's people that are working on that in Maple Ridge right now.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting one to connect with, just to see
Neat.
how that
Block
develops.
building, and it's very confined, and you're just sitting at a desk, and I find I didn't learn very well that way. I'll learn very well when I'm like out in the air, and a lot of schools are starting to do this. They're actually taking their students out into the actual nature, where you're getting fresh air. And you're breathing it in, and you're learning a little bit more because you're a little bit more visually and mentally stimulated, and you're able to absorb that information more. And I think if we can build some kind of structure or some kind of openness to that, I think that would really help a lot of people, and children, and especially children who are going to be growing up in the community.
Ecological, and that are, you know, the cob
Exactly.
kind, and using natural light, and using materials that retain heat, and using all of those techniques. I think the Living Earth Institute should, of course, share those
Yes.
secrets and practices through a tactile, hands-on
How this community
interaction.
And the
can
cultural
improve,
house
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These were the decisions we made, and why, and this is why it makes scientific sense. This
Right.
is how you can this is how you can improve your home by making some simple adjustments. Even if you're not able to live with us in this community, maybe you can weatherize, and you know, give those kind of helpful tips.
We'll bring from what this community into your life.
Yeah.
Off the community, off the place, off the physical area. Yeah.
And I think with, all the while working within all of the legal structures, so that it's something that's friendly to the municipal government of the area, so that then seeing something valuable and viable, existing, is really the way to change laws and bylaws. So when they see something that works, that people like, and that's beautiful, it's another thing. And making sure that this is a place of beauty, because we all love beauty. We want to sit in a block, right? So yeah, making something.
I think it'd be great to have a self-sustaining community, but I have a question about that, and that's how do we continue to keep a solution-oriented attitude in a way that's anticipating? Like, does it mean how will the anticipating crisis affect our kind of goal of this positive energy and mind frame that we're trying to keep, and what kinds of Yeah, you're right. But then, and also, what kind of people are we attracting? You know, like in terms of, I don't know. I have a lot of questions that, because there's a lot of places I've visited where,
Yeah.
like,
They're very much
whoa,
focused
man,
on
that.
I don't really want to
Very
live here
obviously on
because,
the
yeah,
radar.
exactly.
Because they're doomsday
Yeah,
creatures.
exactly. And I'm not that kind of person.
Counterculture,
So-
American society.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes along with the anti the man and all this attitude that I really don't believe in.
Right.
So,
But I think that part of the perspective of empowerment through experience is being able to manage, to survive and collaborate in order to endure a sort of, not endure, but succeed in crisis. So yeah, I mean, knowledge of food development and like having proper sanitation and like water access and energy creation, I think that's critical to a community. So yeah, I think,
Yeah.
and that's
It
already
makes
something
the
that we.
project a lot bigger though.
But
It
not
does.
making
It
it
does.
so insulated that that's the focus. I mean,
Yeah.
being a part of an integrated part of the greater community is key in order to survive and thrive in this setting. But I think that being able to function in such a crisis is an important perspective to maintain.